used to be able to get away with for using for costumes.
Way too reflective.
Oh, my daughter was
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order for October 17th, 2023. We're meeting both in person in the council chambers and virtually. I'd also like to acknowledge that we're honored and privileged to be gathered on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish First Nation. We have an agenda. Are there any changes, amendments, or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, I would look for approval for the agenda. Councillor D'Andretti, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Thank you. We have delegations today. The first delegation is Chief Rob Michaels with the Gibsons and District Volunteer Fire Departments. Go ahead, Chief Michaels.
Hello. My apologies for the motion sickness that I'm about to give you. This is a pet peeve of mine, but I'm in between two places right now. So I hope you can hear me okay. And I'm just going to head right into my introduction if I can. The membership currently sits at 45 firefighters, including 10 new recruits. Recruits have one final practical evaluation, which is scheduled for next week before they're ready to respond to callouts. The focus of training for this quarter was technical rope rescue, ladder raising, hazardous materials operations, and instructor development. The department also co-hosted an emergency evacuation drill with SCRD recreation staff. The scenario, hosted at the Gibsons and District Aquatic Facility, simulated a fire and chemical emergency. Ecom 911 also participated in the training event, dispatching fire crews after a mock 911 call. An actual event occurred at the facility later in the month where the training and preparation proved to be extremely effective. The fire department responded to 98 calls for service in the third quarter, including a fire hydrant hit by a vehicle, a motor vehicle incident that closed the highway for a little over an hour, a boat fire, a wildfire near Cedar Grove Elementary, and a wildfire near Sunnycrest Mall. Pumper 1 was placed out of service due to a malfunction with a pump interlock during a call.
Thank you.
Fortunately, the incident commander was able to bring in a different apparatus in short order without compromising the outcome of the incident. However, the vehicle had to be sent to Fleet for additional maintenance to determine the cause of the issue and to facilitate repairs. The fire team completed 11 fire and life safety inspections, 18 referrals, and 4 OFC fire investigations. The fire department hosted a daycare fire hall tour and prepared for Fire Safety Week. In cooperation with the BC Wildfire Service, a campfire ban was issued on June 29th across the region until rescinded on September 27th. As anticipated, burning restrictions were in effect for a majority of the summer season. This summer, the province requested command staff, structure protection, and structure defense crews from the Gibsons Fire Department and surrounding areas. Firefighters put in some long days and worked hard throughout the season where multiple crew rotations were required. This continues to be a valuable opportunity where the department is able to put their skills to use and learn about the complexities of wildfire events in other communities throughout the province. An emergency operations center was activated on September 15th due to wildfire near Clohome Lake. The BC Wildfire Service recommended an evacuation order for a number of properties and an evacuation alert across the lake. The fire department was able to support staffing the EOC, and all evacuation orders and alerts were canceled on September 27th after a change in weather had a positive impact on the fire. The Sunshine Coast Fire Smart team has added additional staff, including Fire Chief retired Bill Higgs and Lieutenant Aaron Wilson from Half Moon Bay. The Fire Smart team completed 75 homeowner assessments, 5 community assessments, and 15 public events in the third quarter. And I'm happy to answer any questions on any fire department activities or projects.
Thank you, Chief Michaels. Council? Councillor Dandretti?
Yeah, I just had a
Go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Thanks for a great report. I have a question as it pertains to pre-incident planning. What categorizes a building for pre-incident planning?
Public buildings, really.
Pardon me?
So public buildings, anywhere the public would generally be. So, businesses or, industrial or, some of those buildings. So not private residence.
That's the criteria. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'd just like to thank you, Chief Michaels. Councillor Dandretti and I sit on the Fire Advisory Board, and we met yesterday, and it was a very insightful meeting. I think, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to the volunteers who serve with the department. There's some dialogue that may change. Their status may change, and I think it's something that we need to support. We've got a great team of people, that are in position to serve the community. So I'd just like you to extend our gratitude to your members. And thank you, Chief.
Will do. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, item 3.2, we have a quarterly report from Staff Sergeant Jennifer Prunty.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. I'd like to thank Tracy for bearing with my technical glitches with regards to the stats. So I hope that you all have the current and accurate stats before you. Just kind of, I won't go through them again item by item, but perhaps maybe we'll look at some of the more noticeable ones in terms of an increase, and I can maybe drill down on some of the questions that you may have about that and give a bit of context to them. So starting with assault with a weapon, or CBH. CBH stands for causing bodily harm, which is a specific criminal code offense. So they're the higher end of assaults, quite violent ones. So there is a marked increase in them quarter over quarter over the past 2 years. Up to 11. So I drilled down on those because, I kind of wanted to see what was driving those numbers. And what I can tell you is, of those 11, 4 of them were domestic assaults involving family members. So not necessarily spousal, but family members who reside in the same residence. 2 of them were youths with pellet guns. 4 of them were committed by 2 well-known offenders who both have experienced mental health issues as well, and we deal with quite frequently. And only one was a stranger attack, and that was a road rage incident. So that kind of gives you a little bit of context for those 11 there. Moving down to break and enters. So no change there for the business break and enters. I know that's been talked about coast-wide, but for the previous quarter, which ended September the 30th, there was no change there for Gibsons. I also wanted to, because we had a question last time regarding what, if you look at the very end where they talk about UCR overall offenses, and they call overall crime category summary, that is a compilation of all of the stats that you saw in the above paragraphs, just sort of grouped together so that you get a picture of which ones are violent crimes, which ones are property crimes. So they're not additional files. It's the same files you're seeing just not broken down. So overall, we had 23 charges laid, which is up from 19 in the same quarter last year. Our calls for service were 584, which is up from last year, which was 493. So maybe before I move on from the stats, do we have any questions about those?
Council, any questions? Councillor Andretti?
Thank you. It's about missing persons. I can see that's 11, but I remember last time you mentioned that all of them were, I don't know if recovered, if it's the correct terminology, but any status on this 11 missing people?
Yes, all recovered.
Oh,
Yeah,
they
we have-
all
We
over-
have no
okay.
outstanding missing persons from
Okay.
Gibsons.
And are they all related to mental health?
No, not necessarily. It can be a quick missing person, like a missing child that's wandered off.
Okay.
A lot of them can be reported in Gibsons, but they're actually people who reside in other places. But the family members live here, so they report them missing.
Okay.
But no, we have no outstanding missing people right now on the coast.
Okay. Thank you. I think,
You'll see quite a heavy media campaign when we do get missing people because we are ferry access, so we find that it's helpful for us that if we can front end load it with information and get their information out and their picture out, that we can usually resolve it fairly quickly.
I think when I see missing persons, I relate to traffic, human traffic, and that's
Right.
not the case. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
totally different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you report if it's a case of human trafficking? You will report differently?
It will look different because it may not come across as that in the initial instance, so it would be an unsolved missing
Okay.
person case
Missing, yeah,
who
and-
could then evolve into a human trafficking case for sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
It's just been 1 month, but I'm just wondering if there's anything worth noting as far as the changes with the update on the decriminalization of controlled substance.
Right, yeah, so you're right, it has just been 1 month, but, what it's done is given just a little bit more leeway to us in assisting with nuisance behavior right around where children would congregate. So, I think it will in the long term, not so much during the winter months, but in the long term, it will resolve some of the complaints that we get from the public who don't necessarily understand the decriminalization exemption that we're going through right now. Excuse me. So yeah, basically in a nutshell, what happened on September the 18th is that the legislation was amended so that the exemption was not as broad as it had formerly been, which basically allowed people to the open use of illicit drugs on very close to playgrounds. There are still a lot of places where it is still allowed in most public spaces unless it's one of the specifically identified spaces in the exception legislation, which is the spray parks, playgrounds, schools, cars, military bases, Coast Guard bases. I think that's it for the exceptions of the exception.
Councillor Andretti?
Thank you, Chair. We usually get the reports from Seychelles and a comparison. Is it a glitch this time?
No, it's not a glitch. It's I didn't get the stats until right at the last minute. In fact, I got Gibson stats just by pushing and pushing and pushing because the meeting was today. I got them yesterday evening. So, and she was only able to do Gibsons. So just an hour ago, I now have Seychelles and the rest of Sunshine Coast. So I can forward that to you, through Tracy. I'll send it to you so that you have those. So yeah, my apologies. I'm working with the analysts. There's only 2 analysts for all of the province, and they were overburdened with a bunch of requests this month. So.
Any other questions? Sergeant Bronte, I'd really like to thank you for your report and the detail, and particularly highlighting for us, when you see a figure that's increased by 1,000%, it's sort of alarming. But when it's only got something that's gone from 1 to 11, percentages sometimes really are sort of distort things. So I really do appreciate the sort of dive you took into it to explain for us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Is there anything else you'd care to share with us?
Just the staffing updates, which were also on the same report further down. So, yeah, we're very excited to welcome Sergeant Calvin Aird. So he is actually, the last time that role was filled was when I was in it, for all of 2 weeks before I took the acting detachment commander role. So we'll have some stability with Calvin in that role now. No longer a series of actors going through it. So that person is responsible for the overall operations of our units. So our boots on the ground people. So they do some HR planning, they do event planning, and they also do oversight to serious incidents and search warrant executions, that sort of thing. So it's a key position, and we're happy to finally have it filled on a permanent basis.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us in person. It's always nice to see you.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the quarterly reports. They're really good. They've got a new format. It's great. Thank you. You take care. Okay, moving on to item 4 on the agenda, we have reports, and starting with the administration and corporate and legislative services. Is Rebecca going to lead off?
Sure, thank
Thank
you, Deputy Mayor Kroll. It's been a really busy quarter in Q3. Water, water, water was kind of the theme, and you'll see that that was pretty much a highlight of our Chief Administrative Officer as he worked in collaboration with SERD and the Seashelt First Nation, and we got a new agreement in place, the 560 Aquifer Watershed Protection Agreement. Is it protection agreement? Did I get it right? Watershed agreement. The highlight, that was one of the highlights for me as well, because it felt like a very important piece of work that impacts down the line and into the future. And I would also list in there the work we did on the new homeless outreach program together with Director of Finance and the CAO. There's a lot of collaboration happening with other departments in our department, and that certainly was one of them. As well as the work that we did together on the establishment of officer positions bylaw, working closely with our building inspection department on some bylaw enforcement issues, and then, of course, working through the 2024-2027 strategic plan, and our communications coordinator is involved in so much of this work and the messaging that goes out for each of these things. We had fewer meetings in this quarter, in Q3, because of the recess for the month of August, but we managed to keep pretty busy. There's a long list of contracts. I can tell you that's not all of them. There are others that aren't showing here that felt more operational, but also because sometimes I lose track and I don't remember to list them all. So there are others I'm thinking of that actually aren't showing there. Lots of FOIs coming. We've hit pretty much double what we've had in previous years this year. So it's been a very busy year for FOIs. If you have questions about some of the technology and the records management, I can tell you that the records management is lifting off the ground. Tracy's here if you have questions about that. But the contract was awarded to Cadence Solutions, and Tracy's just done a phenomenal job of getting the groundwork done to get that up. Get us to the stage where we can even do that. So we're now entering the later phases of that project, the initial phase having been completed. And she's going to get a lot busier soon. She warns me that as the next phase lifts off the ground, it's going to absorb a lot of her focus and attention, and she's probably not going to be as readily available as we're used to. So she also hopefully will not have as many public use permit applications now that the summer season is over, and that might help free her up because the processing of those permits is really time consuming and really doubles down during summer months and the good weather. So in addition, the IT work just keeps growing. It just, ever since we've gone to new methods of doing things, and with the higher requirements for security, cybersecurity, and just accessibility. The records and management project, of course, links with IT. So there's a lot of work there. She also does a lot of work with our occupational health and safety. She sits on that committee. And our communications coordinator, you can see all over the place. She's probably got a really wide breadth of information at her fingertips and growing by the day. So you can see there's quite a long list of not just newsletter-related information, but very specific messaging regarding the activities of each of our departments, and covering special events such as the Truth and Reconciliation event, and Council's strategic planning process, the whole water issues, and our community dialogue sessions. She's a huge help with those, being present and assisting as much as possible. And you'll see she's very active with the social media as well, but she's here as well if you have any questions for her. And I see she's also done some work around our emergency services, which was kind of a cause of anxiety, I'd say, amongst our public this year. So she was able to assist with good messaging around that. At the end of our report, you'll see the financial plan implications. It's page 13 of the report, page 51 of the agenda. And you can take a look there and see the council expenses going through the third quarter. Bear in mind that some of those expenses, some councilors' expenses may actually reflect more than just their own expenses. There may be other expenses put through on their card that might raise one person's as higher and look like one person's bearing a larger portion of expenses. But our Director of Finance is here and could answer any questions you might have around that.
Thank you, Rebecca. Before I turn to council for questions, is there anything that you'd like to add to it, CAO Machado? Council? Councilor Dendretti?
Thank you. Yeah, very good report. Well, again, you have such a good grasp of what's happening. Really much appreciated. I'm just curious with the field of information, when you say survey, what does it mean?
Sorry, which?
Freedom of information.
Oh, the Freedom of
FOIs, yeah.
Information? And it says survey?
Survey, yeah. It's, I couldn't understand, because
just
everything
backing
else you
up.
kind of have an understanding. I wasn't sure.
I'm just looking for which one, what number is that?
Oh, 2023-12 F at the end.
You know what, I'd have to look to be
Okay,
sure.
that's okay.
But it likely has to do with the survey conducted by the town and someone having questions about that.
Oh, okay, okay.
But
I wasn't sure
if
what
you
type
wish,
of
I can give you more detailed information later.
Oh, no, I was just more curious if it was a building survey or, so you're talking about the surveys?
Well, it's possible that it was also that you rang a bell now. That may actually have been to do with a land survey.
Okay, thank you.
I'll correct that to be more clear next time.
No further questions? Okay, I'd like to thank you. You know, I think the absence of questions indicates the great detail that's been provided in the report, and really thank you for it. Moving on, our Director of Finance.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'll keep it brief. I just have a couple items I want to touch on. So Q3, the bulk of that, a large part of that is wrapping up from tax season and just reporting that tax season went really well again this year. Repayments were really on par with previous years, so really consistent across the community. Deferrals, property tax deferrals continue to be really popular. They're at 15% of the eligible people that can do it. So it's inching up basically a percentage every year. So that's a significant portion. And I'm really happy to say that we avoided a tax sale again this year. So we started out with 11 properties on the list, and we do a lot of background work supporting those owners to try and get them to a place where we don't have to do that. So I was really happy to see that. I've listed all the grants that the town has been involved in, and I was kind of surprised to see that there's actually 17 of them, which I think is the highest number I've ever had. So there's a lot of grant administration going on right now, so those are listed. And we have 2 more new applications that are listed there, which is the Housing Accelerator Fund and then a New Horizons for Senior grant that we just put in recently. And then another active area just finally is HR. It's incredibly active, that area, and just a reminder that that's Sophie, our HR manager, and she only works 4 days a week. So trying to fit all that into a 4-day-week job is pretty challenging, but she's doing a great job. So lots of activity, as with all departments. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Council. Councillor Dendretti.
Thank you. That regards the COVID Safe Start grant. I know the deadline is the end of the year, and are we going to be able to use everything?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, so we have it. There are 2 projects that are finishing up and that we have funds for. One is the records management project that the corporate officer was talking about, and the other one is the renovation for 494 next door. It's going to be a bit of a race to the finish as to whether we can actually allocate the funds in time. It's, projects have been delayed the last couple of years. And I think, though, although the province had ideally asked us for 2023, given the amount and the rationale, if we go over into 2024, early 2024, and they'll be okay with us doing that. Yeah, but I do have it. It's been fully allocated, so it's not like we're not trying to spend that money. It's just the environment sometimes makes things get delayed. So, thanks.
Thank you. And I'd just like to acknowledge the great reporting that you've provided to us over, certainly my term, most of my term. And sadly, I think the next quarterly report is not going to be delivered by you. So your successor has big shoes to fill, but I'm sure your team's going to support them. So thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Dendretti.
Sorry, just following the observation, because as I was reading the report, I was wondering, as I know, Lorraine has to come back to finish the 4th report, because the next person won't know all the details. Sorry, it was just so interesting.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you. I meant to mention, thank you for that. I meant to mention, they'll be fine. I meant to mention that I am working on this time of year, in November, usually we provide a 9-month budget report and a forecast out to the end of the year. I'm trying to get that done before I go, so at least get it prepped. So the new director will be presenting that, but hopefully I'll give him enough information to be able to. So I'm working on that. That's coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 4.3, infrastructure services. Director Radley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think similar to corporate services, it was a very busy quarter for infrastructure as well. The quarter was bookended by the departure of the temporary acting MMO and the acceptance in very early Q4 start of the new manager maintenance and operations. So, which is very exciting to have them on board now. But for Q3, there was the absence of that position. So a lot of the attention was kind of on the operations. But we still were able to advance quite a lot of the capital program as well, which is outlined throughout the report, with work starting on the Sharman Creek retaining wall and the Beachcomber Lane culvert, as well as completing all the ARC work and environmental work for White Tower Park, with construction on that project starting this week as well. And just to keep it brief, in the development services, we did complete servicing agreements and signed servicing agreements for a couple of larger developments, being 824 Kiwanis Way and Block 7 Gospel Rock Phase 1. So that was a servicing agreement specifically for the earthwork, for them to be able to grade the site and do the kind of the drainage works. Operationally, being Q3 through the summer, water supply was certainly top of mind, and that was a recurring regular meeting that we had with our operations staff. We were able to maintain stage 2 watering restrictions throughout the summer. We did regular analysis and assessment of our supply and the consumption in town and how the wells were recharging and rebounding. And throughout all of that, we found that we were able to maintain the level of service that we hoped to, which is stage 2 throughout the summer. And the wastewater system, there was no major incidents, and it was kind of just focused on operations throughout the summer. And maybe just to touch on some of the HR as well. So in addition to us filling the vacant MMO position, we also hired a facilities maintenance worker to kind of take care of the town-owned buildings and facilities, utility technician to another operator to support the operations at the treatment plant and the water system, and another park laborer as well to kind of fill in some of the vacancies with injuries and vacation time and whatnot. So we were able to do that with the available operating budget. And I'll just leave it at there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council? Question? Councillor D'Andretti?
I have a bunch of small questions, just, may I? I start with the, installing precipitation and temperature stations. This is complete. Is there any, because I went to the website, I didn't see any page. Is it a plan to post something? Because I thought it would be quite interesting to know where I don't know, or maybe it's a matter of security, I'm not sure.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I can speak with the natural asset technician who's oversees that work. I believe we did post some information that they were installed. As far as the location of them and security, I think it would be worth considering whether there'd be any vulnerability with it.
Okay. The question was, I'm sorry, could you repeat? Oh, I was curious myself. Oh, where are these stations, right? So I look a page on the website, but then I start thinking, well, maybe it could be a matter of security on purpose not to display, but I'm not sure. Because sometimes we provide information. So I was just curious if this will be considered or maybe not. I mean, I was curious to know where this, as part of the reporting system that the town does anyways.
Again, through you as Deputy Mayor, we could certainly share that information with you as far as whether we publish it on our website. I think we'd have an internal discussion about that first.
And if I may, well, and then also the complete flow accretion study. So my curiosity, is this going to be posted on the website as well? The actual study? The actual study when it's ready. Because I'm sure some other organizations might be interested as well. And perhaps when it's ready, if council can receive just some email saying the study is ready, or maybe the PDF, I appreciate, right?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I think my understanding of that study, the report itself is going to be quite technical and might not have a lot of information that would be readily digestible for the general public. Not to say that it wouldn't be appropriate to share, but I think it's without the context of understanding the broader, the interaction between the creeks and the aquifer and the complexity of the hydrogeology and the hydrology and how things kind of interact at the interface between the surface and groundwater. I don't know how much value it would have for the general public. I think it's going to be quite technical. So I think we can assess the value of the specific letter report that we get from that and whether it's maybe just worth providing some information as a general update on the works completed under the Aquifer Mapping Program, maybe a summary report of the handful of projects that we completed in 2023 might be presented in 2024. That might be a better way to distill and present that information.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. In the past, there are some reports that are quite technical, and they are on the website. I'm just trying to understand what goes and what doesn't go. But I appreciate a summary anyways, at least for the general public, right? Because I think this is it's a very important study, and even a layperson can understand if it's digestible, right? I appreciate that. I have some questions regarding the trees. May I?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't bring my mouse. It's just I think I did not understand the way the information was posted. Because it says, staff issue 18 tree removal per, oh, sorry. Okay, disregard I think I got it, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Great report.
Thank you very much for the report. And actually, I'm going to say something here, if I may, before we go to the Director of Planning. These reports are great. And, you know, sadly, we look at, Tracy, just out of curiosity, how many attendees do we have?
I've got 3.
Okay. Like, this is great information. Staff have gone to a great deal of trouble to prepare these reports. They're just a wealth of information. And, you know, then people start asking questions and they're looking for answers that are here. And I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can synthesize these and give Bronman more work. Did I say that? But just put something like high points, like quarterly. These are things that have been hit and have been accomplished, and it's just, you know, Reader's Digest condensed version of quarterly reports for, you know, for people. Because to Councillor Andretti's point, a lot of people aren't going to wade through the agenda to read it. They just want to know what happened. And I don't know whether, you know, I'm not saying do it, but I think it would be, you know, a great opportunity for our staff to receive the recognition that they deserve for the amount of work that they get accomplished in a quarter. You know, so I think it's just something I'd like to see if we could consider coming out with a Reader's Digest condensed version of just the high points or some of the challenges. And with that, we'll move on to 4.4, Director of Planning.
May I have another question for?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This regards the preliminary design works for AT upgrades on School Road and Gower Point Road. I'm aware of Gower Point, but I'm not aware of School Road. I thought there has been already some AT. Is it anything?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we've reviewed the remaining budget for the Active Transportation Network Plan. And through that, we've identified that there's not sufficient funds to complete the upgrades to the section of Gower Point Road that was initially included in the grant application due to, I think largely due to the fact that the pricing for that grant application was based in 2019. So we're looking for ways to use the remaining budget that might be, you know, kind of get the low cost but high impact. And one of the areas of concern that has been raised from an outside agency, maybe more so, is around the frontage of the Gibsons Elementary School. And so we've been working with our engineering consultants to look at opportunities for making some improvements to the signage or street markings or something like that in front of the school between Gibson's Way and, say, O'Shea that might help, you know, bring attention and slow speeds down through that area. Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on to 4.4, Director of Planning.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this will be a high-level overview. We did rearrange our quarterly report, hopefully in a way that council likes. We added a snapshot. So on the last page, it's a very high-level summary that covers all 3 departments, planning, building, and bylaw. I'll go over the planning side, and we've got our chief building official and senior bylaw enforcement officer here to speak to the building and bylaw stats. So the Affordable Housing Project, so that was the CMHC Housing Accelerator Fund application. We powered through that over the summer and managed to get an application in. We are still waiting on a response. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and hopefully we'll get some money through that. DPA number 1, so that's geotech hazards, that is progressing. So both DPA 1 and 2, we had hoped to finalize these projects by October. I still haven't received a draft for DPA 1. So we're now moving that timeline to hopefully end of year to get the DPs updated. So with DPA 1, we discovered a pinch point in Lower Gibsons on a culvert. So we've engaged Sterling Geoscience they're working with infrastructure on the Charmin project, but they're looking at 2 scenarios. So a scenario before the culvert is updated, because ideally we'll get the development permit updated before all that infrastructure is in place. The second scenario is once the culvert is updated, what does that do downstream? And it's going to change the flood hazard. So we've got to look at both scenarios in order to get the work done properly. So that's happening with DPA 1. DPA 2 is going really well. Again, we're also going to need some time. They've had some staff turnover, maternity leave right now, so there's some coverage happening. We've received an initial set of guidelines and exemptions, and we've reviewed them and shared our comments back with them. But it's looking really good and exciting. There's going to be some more development permit coverage in Gibsons. So there's a bunch of creeks that were not previously identified. They're now going to be identified and protected. So there will be some change there. The active transportation plan, that's moving along really nicely. We've completed phases 1 and 2. We're at phase 3 right now, which is looking at routes, looking at connections, and looking at how to prioritize the projects. So we had a meeting with the team this quarter, and they're going to refine the map, and then there's going to be a second round of community engagement in November. So that's when we're going to share the map, share what we've heard, and hopefully find that we're on track. So that's going to happen November. And then the other projects, OCP and zoning bylaw update. So that hasn't started yet. So there's been initial work on drafting the scope for the OCP project. It's not a lot of money to do an OCP, so I'm working on a report that's going to come to council in November, I hope, for a pre-budget approval for the zoning bylaw to wrap those projects in together and use the community engagement for both those projects to hopefully make it go a little bit farther. Garden Suite policy update, that also hasn't happened. We're keeping our fingers crossed for the Housing Accelerator Fund money to come through to support that. In terms of reports, the planning department has pumped out 13 reports for Committee of the Whole and Council this quarter. And then 1 for the advisory design panel. We had 1 public hearing and then 1 community dialogue, which went well, I think. In terms of new development applications received, of note would be 2 zoning amendments. So one is for Venture Way. So the corner of Venture Way, there's a property across from the new development. It's a vacant lot right now, so we got a rezoning application there and an OCP amendment. And we've also received a zoning amendment for 1057 Gibsons Way. So that's the corner of Pratt and the highway. And they're looking at some rental units there. So that will be coming forward. I'll leave it at that. And then also of note later on in the report where we talk about bylaw enforcement, just a quick update on the residential guest accommodation, short-term rental piece. As of now, or since January, we've got 89 business licenses for short-term rentals. 43 of those are for year-round entire homes, so non-principal residences, and then 46 are for principal residences, so a shared home situation. And we've got really good compliance. We've got a good review process. We're in touch with operators, and we're at a really high compliance rate, which is what we were aiming for, so that's good. I'll leave it there for any questions and then pass it over to Jason and Sue.
Council?
Well, first of all, I enjoyed the new format. I think it was really good. Yeah, I think it was more, less cumbersome. But I just want to clarify, I mean, new developments that come to council, they are posted on the website, right?
Yes, once we've received a paid application, a complete application, we'll post it on our website.
Okay. So, and what happens now with updates? Because in the past, you could say, okay, Gospel Rock, and there will be update provided on the report. So now I won't see, would the website be updated?
Through the deputy mayor. So we try and keep it updated. It depends on the information that's coming in. So with Gospel Rock, over the years, we've heard they were going to start, but until we've got something substantial to post, then we would post it. So we try, but we might not always stay on top of it once a project is underway.
Okay, but just to continue. So the intention will be, if there is an update, it will be here on the, oh, okay, great, yeah. And after I have something about bylaws.
Councilor Thompson?
I had a few questions, but you answered them in your presentation, so well done, thank you. Great report.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to add, I really like this reporting format, and particularly the snapshot that you've included. Something I would ask for, as time permits, is the new provincial legislation came out yesterday with regard to residential guest accommodation. And I think everyone is scratching their head. You know, I was reaching for the Rosetta Stone, trying to decipher the thing that was on the provincial website. It didn't make a lot of sense. So once staff have had an opportunity to fathom it, and I wish you luck, if we could get a report back on where we stand and how it's going to impact on us, whether we stay the way we are or whether we decide to opt in, because I think it would be very valuable to have one voice rather than 5 of us trying to decipher it and explain things. So, you know, as time permits, and hopefully you're able to unravel it, and I wish you luck. Councillor Dandretti, you had a question with respect to bylaw.
Yes, thank you. Particularly, I appreciate the bylaw because I'm always like, what means others? So I really appreciate the breakdown. I think to start with, I would like some understanding where are we with the crematorium issue, if there has been some fine for nuisance smoke, or, because I know the complaints have been ongoing.
Yeah, I think in Q3 we received 8 complaints concerning 7 separate events. So traditionally what we've done is, because we do not regulate crematoriums, consumer protection will do, we've advised people to call them. The way our bylaws stand right now, we have 2 burning bylaws, but they are exclusively for outdoor burning. They do not address indoor burning at all. And as I understand, I think Consumer Protection do have an inspection scheduled soon.
So okay, so someone complained, or was the town that made a complaint?
Oh no, through Deputy Mayor, they complained to bylaw enforcement.
Sorry?
The complaints are made to our office.
Oh, no, okay, sorry.
Just for clarification, the complaint comes to us, and the person complaining has been referred to the provincial ministry that governs it, because it's out of our jurisdiction to fine or enforce.
Oh, I understand that. And I think there was perhaps a debate, because I saw in one of the emails whether we had the power to fine, but I understand that we don't right now based on our bylaw, so. But I wasn't aware, because my understanding is that there was a request that the public would make the complaint themselves. So, and that's the part that some clarification would be nice.
I think what the bylaw officer has said is that we've referred people to the provincial ministry that the complaint has to be registered with. If we register the complaint, it's only hearsay. It needs to come from the individual complaining.
Okay. Because I had people approaching me saying they have not responded and things like that, but what you're saying, there has been a response.
I would assume a provincial ministry, and if you have more information on it, Sue, I'd appreciate it, but I would assume provincial ministries are slow in responding at best.
Without going into too much detail, as I understand, we have a contact now at the Consumer Protection Authority who has been communicating with the town and has assured us that they are looking into this matter.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Taylor? Is there anyone else that would our building inspector like to add anything to the report that was given by the director?
No, I'm happy with the report as it stands, if everybody else is. Any questions, though, if there are any?
No, I think we're good. I think, you know, the level of reporting has been absolutely excellent, and I just hope we can find a way to make it a little easier for the public to find their way to the highlights in these reports. I think it's, you know, we've got a lot of accomplishments that staff should be proud of, and we're certainly proud of our staff for what's happening. So if there's a way we can highlight it, that people don't have to go weeding, it would be great. Councillor D'Andretti.
Thanks, Chair. I wonder if it's appropriate if the crematorium, I know there's a lot of members of the public that are apprehensive if this could be posted on the newsletter, or at least to say that we took action and wherever we are, would it be appropriate?
Mayor White?
Sorry, I've got the announcements going on just as I'm speaking, unfortunately. I'll work on getting back. I have got back to people who've made complaints, but I'll definitely get back on giving them all updates as well on the matter where Consumer Protection has been in touch with us. I'll update them on that in the next week.
I think to Councillor D'Andretti's comment was that if there was something on the website, if you have a related complaint to this, go directly to the provincial ministry and, you know, sort of short circuit people coming to staff and having to be referred. I think that was what you were suggesting, was it, Councillor D'Andretti?
No, what I was suggesting is a way of communicating to the public, just that, you know, this is in action, because, you know, the public doesn't understand, doesn't know where we are, but apparently a mayor said that he would communicate. That's okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The next meeting for the regular committee of the whole is to be held Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 at 3 p.m. I would look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor D'Andretti, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Thank you, everyone.